as long as I've ever known Pastor Wiley, my dad has always been by his side.
That's right.
And he is greatly missed during the service, but y'all pray with me and pray for me.
Amen, amen, Jesus.
As I honor both of them
Yes, Lord.
today, like only the Lord has given me a word to honor them on today.
Yes, Lord.
Y'all bear with the young preacher on today. I ain't been up here as long as everybody else, but my qualifier is that I serve the same Lord that everybody else serves. So we're going to praise Him anyway. Amen. There is a word from the Lord on today. Coming from the book of 2 Samuel.
All right.
Chapter 21, verses 15 through 17.
Yes, sir.
Book of 2 Samuel, chapter 21, verses 15 through 17.
All right.
Coming from the New King James Version on today, it says, when the Philistines were at war again with Israel, David and his servants went with him down and fought against the Philistines.
Come on.
And David grew faint.
Yeah.
Then Ishbi-Benob was one of the sons of the giant, the weight of whose bronze spear was 300 shekels, who was bearing a new sword. He thought he could kill David.
Come on.
But Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, came to his aid and struck the Philistine and killed him. Then the men of David swore to him, saying, you shall not go out no more with us to battle, lest you quench the lamp of Israel.
Come on.
And by the help of the Holy Spirit, I'd like to use for our thought, even shepherds have to sweat.
All right. Come on now.
Lord bless the preacher today.
Even shepherds have to sweat sometimes.
All right.
You know, I'm not a pastor, but I am the pastor of the First Baptist Church at my address.
What?
And I may not have pastored or shepherded a flock of sheep, but I have my sheep sitting right over here
All right.
on today.
Amen.
So I've had some experience in what it means to be a shepherd.
All right.
I got a real good feel for it on our way to Maywood this weekend.
All right. Come on now.
What you say?
We started our journey to Maywood on Friday morning. We had to get up extra early to catch a 7:30 a.m. flight.
All right.
And there were 5 of us trying to leave the house to catch a plane at 7:30 in the morning. And I got a lot of girls that
Yes.
have to get ready
All right.
to go that early in the morning.
Uh-oh.
But by the grace of God, we actually made it to the airport with time to spare. Got to the airport, looked around, and looked at my ticket, and it said TSA pre.
All
I
right.
said, oh shucks, now I'm gonna have to stand in this line today. Because I looked at the line and it was backed up all the way till it was almost outside. But I had TSA pre on my ticket.
That's right. Come on now.
So that means that I could cut all the way up to the front of the line if I wanted to. And then I looked at my wife and my baby and my mother-in-law, and they all had the same TSA pre
All right.
on that ticket. So I thought that we had it made. Didn't have to take off my shoes and my belt and take my laptop out. Hadn't have to do any of that.
All right. Come on, baby.
But then I looked at my oldest daughter's ticket, and she did not have the TSA pre. Now, as slick and as smooth as I think I am, I try to talk to the TSA agent and ask him, can she come in line with us They told me, no, that's above our pay grade. If it's not on that ticket, then she cannot get in this line. They said no exceptions. But even though she may not have had TSA pre on her ticket, the one thing that she did have on her ticket was the name Jones.
All right.
And that meant that she was still with me.
All right.
Y'all will catch this in a second. So I made sure that my family made it through security. Even though that she had to go to the longer line, I made sure that everybody else made it to security. Made sure that they made their way to the airplane.
All right, come on now.
But when I got to the gate, my baby was still in line, so I told them I'm going to wait here until she gets through security, and I'm going to catch up with y'all. My mother texted me not too long after that and said, now boarding.
All right.
I said, I'll be there in a minute. I got to wait on this one.
All right.
Because she's with me.
All right.
My wife texted me and said, we have some seats saved for you on the plane.
All right.
But I told her I'm going to stay right here
Come on now.
until she makes it all the way through security. Because she's with me.
Come on, Jones. Come on now.
10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes past.
Come on now, Jones.
It wasn't looking good in the airport on Friday morning. Didn't know what we were going to do. My wife asked me, what are you going to do if you miss this flight? I said, I will wait here as long as it takes.
All right.
I'll take the next flight if I have to.
Say it.
But I can't leave her behind because she's with me. And then I hear over the loudspeaker the things I didn't want to hear. Final call, flight to Chicago.
All right.
Then she texts me right at that moment and says, I'm right here at security. I just have to go through the machine.
All right.
She really knows how to cut it real close, y'all. I'm getting real nervous right about now. But then she makes it over to the other side of security. And as soon as she makes it over, I said, just grab your stuff, don't put anything on, let's go. And we take off running through the airport, and the loudspeaker comes right back on and says, last call, the doors are closing. We take off in a full sprint through the airport. We dodging all the business people, the vacationing families. It's Friday, it's spring break. We just moving as fast as we can to get to that gate.
Say it, Jones. Come on now.
I believe I'm going to run on and see what the end is going to be. Moment right then and there. And then we get to the gate and we are sweating and we're out of breath. But the lady at the gate took the tickets and she said the best thing that I had heard all morning long. Welcome aboard. So I walked to my seat. We were the last ones on. People were looking at me like, you about to make us late on this flight? But I had to hold that plane up that day. Because she was with me.
That's right. Come on, Jones.
And we were not going anywhere unless we were all going that day. So being charged to be a shepherd means you will do everything you can to look over your flock.
That's right.
But it also means you will do everything you can to protect the one that needs you the most.
Come on, Jones.
And that's what I'm trying to tell you today, Pastor Riley.
Come on, Jones.
Is that you've been a good shepherd.
Yes.
You've been a good shepherd over the flock that God has called you to lead.
Come on, Jones.
You've led tirelessly for the last 27 years. You've been a good shepherd. You've transformed lives through your preaching. You've been a good shepherd. Your teaching has helped to save lost souls. You've been a good shepherd. You've tended to the sick and helped to deliver the broken in spirit. You've been a good shepherd. Can I get a witness in this place today? This church is a light. The church is across the nation because you've been a good shepherd. You brought them all from a mighty long way, Pastor Riley. You've been a good shepherd. You led them with courage.
Come on now.
Time has not always been on your side, but you've still been a good shepherd. Some of your sheep may have gone astray, but that don't mean nothing. You still a good shepherd.
That's all right.
on, Jones.
putting in work
Yes.
to take care of the one.
Like your daddy. Come on, Jones.
Concerned that
Turn you. Come on now.
concerned that we might not make it, but I had to stay there for the one. I just realized that being a good shepherd is not easy work. Sometimes it just gets downright hard. Truth is, back in those days when David was a shepherd, it was one of the least desired professions.
That's right. That's right.
It required you to get your hands dirty. It required you to sweat and get tired, and
Yes.
you had to be on call 24/7 to take care of
Yes,
all
sir.
those sheep.
Yes, sir.
And you rarely ever got a day off because you didn't want anything to happen
That's right.
to your sheep.
That's right.
And that's where we find ourselves today. We're talking about David on today
Yes.
in 2 Samuel. But before I dive into verses 15 through 17, I need to bring this back to verses 12 through 14. If you have your Bibles, you can read it with me.
All
But
right.
if you read that passage of scripture, you find that David has just recovered the bones of the former King Saul, but he also recovered the bones of Jonathan. Now, if you know anything about Jonathan, Jonathan and David were best friends. They were closer than brothers. The Bible says that they took care of each other,
Yes.
that they made promises to each other.
Yes.
You don't have to shout right here. I'm teaching you something right now. I'm going somewhere with this, and you're going to see it in a second. But even though Jonathan was Saul's son, which means that Jonathan could have been the king
Yes.
after David and after Saul, they were still best friends. And Jonathan still honored David, even though he knew that his father wanted to kill David. The Bible doesn't say what was really on his heart at that moment, but I got to think that if you've ever been close to someone who had to pass on before you, I just have to believe that David was in some kind of distress.
Okay.
Let the church say distress.
Distress.
He had to relive some tough moments that resurfaced when he had to bury his best friend. And that's the heavy burden of being a leader in church. You've been given charge to watch over the people, even though you might be going through it yourself.
That's right.
People expect you to show up and show out, but what do you do when your life just blows up and blows out?
All right.
You can't get caught up in your feelings because you still have a job to go out and do.
All right. All right.
That's the burden of being a shepherd.
Uh-huh.
That's why you have to be real careful how you treat your pastor.
That's right.
You don't know what he might be going through.
That's right. Say it.
You call him up with all of your problems. You don't really know what he might be going through. When you want him to come visit you in the hospital, you don't know what he's going through. Can I get a witness?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When you and your family member might get locked up in jail at 3 o'clock in the morning and you need to hear a word from the Lord,
Say it. Say it.
you don't know what he's going through.
All right. Come
When
on.
your
Jones.
marriage is on the rocks and you need some counseling, you don't know what he might be going through.
That's right.
When you lose a loved one and you need him to preach at their
Yes,
funeral, you
yes.
don't know what he's
Say it. Say it.
going through.
Right.
He's up here preaching with conviction every Sunday morning,
Yes, Lord.
fighting the good fight against Satan for you,
Yes. Say it. Say it.
while Satan is attacking him.
Come on, Jones.
So you just don't know the distress that your pastor might be going through.
Say it. Say it.
But hear me well on this. Don't stop calling.
Uh-huh.
Don't stop asking for prayer.
Yes.
Don't stop believing that he has a word of encouragement for you. Because he was built for this.
All right. All right.
God prepares his shepherds to handle the challenges of life.
All right.
And they built them to handle your challenges too.
Yes.
In verse 15, David is in distress, but he still answers the call of duty.
Yes. All right.
He still answers the call of duty. He still has work to do on that battlefield.
Yes, yes.
He puts his feelings to the side and marches his men to battle against the Philistines.
Yes, Lord.
I want to share a story with you. Happened back in 1992.
All right.
Summer Olympics in Barcelona, Spain. There was a man by the name of Derek Redmond who stepped out on the track after training for 4 long years.
Come on now.
He stepped on the track to run the 400-meter dash of his life.
Yes, sir.
He had prepared for 4 years. He had won gold medals.
Come on
He had
now.
won world championships, European championships. And he was already the favorite to win gold in the Olympics.
Come on. Come on.
He had won victory after victory after victory.
Yes.
And this was going to be his climax moment.
Well,
With the pop of the starting gun, the sprinters took off. And Derek started to make his way around the track.
Come on now.
And he tried to take the lead, but once he got about halfway around the track, he tore his hamstring
That's
and he
right.
began to limp
yes.
around the track in pain. In complete agony,
Yes.
he took a knee on the track.
Come on.
And the other sprinters crossed the finish line. And the Olympic officials tried to get him off the track, but he said, no, I've come too far
Yes.
to stop now. I'm just going to finish
Come on now.
this race. In spite of everyone telling him, you need to give up, he got on his feet and started to limp around the track on one leg as fast as he could. He had worked too hard to get to this opportunity, and he was going to finish
All right.
this race. He needed to push through that pain, continue through the struggle to finish that race. The crowd of 85,000 people stood on their feet and cheered him on as he tried to finish his race. But this is what blew my mind. His daddy ran out on the track as he struggled to finish the race and encourage him and help him the rest of the way. Oh, you're missing it right now. You're missing it right now. When life places you in situations of distress and you still have a duty to fulfill, just finish your race. Things may happen that are outside of your control, but just finish your race. Unexpected consequences may come, but just finish your race. Your Heavenly Father will step in to help you finish the race. How do I know? Because I know that He's a very present help in a time of trouble. He'll help you finish the race. The race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but he that endureth to the end, he'll help you finish the race. And my God shall supply all of my needs according to his riches and glory. Just finish the race. Turn to the person next to you and tell them, I'm going to finish my race. I'm going to finish the race. Amen. So David was dealing with some things.
All right.
David had dealt with the distress of having to bury his best friend. And then he had to turn around and fulfill his duty to his sheep. But then at the end of verse 15, David grew faint. And he entered into a time of despair. How many people have ever been tired in this place? You've been struggling, dealing with things emotionally, and mentally, and physically. And let's not mention that David was getting a little old by this point. Truth be told, David probably didn't have any business even being out there on the battlefield, but he still knew he had a duty to fulfill. Then verse 16, David has an encounter with a giant. See, most people know about David and Goliath. But what you don't know is that David had another encounter with some of Goliath's relatives along the way. How many people know that if your enemies can't take you out the first time around, they'll show up with some reinforcements? How many people know that they'll show up a little bit stronger and a little bit tougher than they did the first time around? And then they try to get you when you're at your weakest point. So now they come back stronger and they try to catch you when you're at your weakest point. Adversity is the ultimate opportunist. It will try to kick you when you're down. Believe it or not, Satan learns from his mistakes. And he likes to set up new traps that he thinks that you can't handle. Adversity shows up for David with an upgrade in his desperate situation. If you read verse 16, Ishbi-Benob, who was one of the sons of the giant, the weight of whose bronze spear was 300 shekels. That's about 8 pounds, y'all. That's a big spear. And he was bearing a new sword. Now, if you know anything about a new razor, you know that that's the sharpest that you ever going to see a new razor. So he had a new sword. He was intent on killing David. You got to watch out when your enemy shows up bigger and badder than they did before. You thought Goliath was a big killer. This giant was ready to finish the job that Goliath couldn't finish. So he thought that he could be the one to kill David in his tired state. And that's how the enemy will show up in your life.
Come on now, say it, say it.
You conquer one problem,
Come on now.
only to face new problems with upgrades.
That's right.
I think you know what I'm talking about. You get your lights turned back on, only to find out that your water is about to be turned off. And you just spent everything you had to get your lights back on. That's some upgraded problems. You finally get the job that you interviewed for so long, and you only find out that they're about to go through layoffs.
Come on,
Those are some
Jones.
upgraded problems. You start off right here, feeling like you conquered it, but it'll bring you right back down to earth. You celebrate beating cancer,
Say it.
only to find a lump where a lump should not be.
All right.
Those are some upgraded problems. You paid the lawyer everything you had to get your child out of trouble, only to get a collect call from Cook County. And it's them on the other end saying, it happened again. I'm sorry. Those are some upgraded problems. But then, what you find in verse 17 is that Abishai comes to David's rescue. It says, Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, came to his aid and struck the Philistine and killed him. Turn to your neighbor and say, everybody needs an Abishai. Everybody needs an Abishai. He steps in right on time and does what David cannot do for himself at that moment. That's the friend that doesn't mind getting their hands dirty for you. That's that friend that picks you up and says, let me take it from here for you. That's that friend that prays for you when you're all prayed out. That's that mother that loves on you when you hit your low points in life. That's that father that stands up for you when you can't stand up for yourself. That's that brother that won't stand to see you get bullied around and pushed around anymore. That's an Abishai. David had some real good people around him that were willing to put their life on the line just for him. I wish I had about 5 good people that can testify. I've got some real good people around me. Oh, I see more than 5. I see that. I got a few witnesses in this place on today. I'm not talking about Facebook friends. I'm talking about real friends. I'm not talking about the people that just click like on your profile. I'm talking about real friends that are there for you when you need them the most. David had people he could count on when he was in his darkest moment. Surrounding yourself with good people makes being a good shepherd pastor a whole lot easier. But then this really messed me up at this point because I couldn't understand how did Abishai get to be so brave? See, this messed me all the way up because I remember back in 1 Samuel, they couldn't find anybody that wanted to take on a giant. Now, how can you step up and just slay this giant with no hesitation? How is it that they can be so cool when they used to be so cowardly? How can they do it? We have David, who was distressed about burying his friend, but still diligent to his duty, only to find himself in a desperate situation. But don't miss this. He was rescued by the divinely inspired. It was divine inspiration that made Abishai believe that he could slay giants just like David slayed giants. David's faith was contagious to all of those who followed him. See, Pastor Wiley, when we were kids growing up and we played outside, we played a game called Follow the Leader.
That's right.
Follow the Leader was a real easy game to play. We just did whatever the leader told us to do. Whatever the leader did, that's what we did. And it was a simple game to play. We knew that if they could do it, then we could do it too. All you had to do was just follow the leader. And if they could watch a shepherd boy named David slay a giant with a slingshot and a stone, they knew that it was possible for them to slay giants as well. But the power was not in the sling. The power was not in that stone. It was in the anointing that God had placed over David's life that made the impossible possible. So David's boys just came over and said, David, just go over here and sit down. That's what my grandma used to say. You need to go over there and just sit down. Just go sit down somewhere, David. We know you can carry the heavy load, but we have that same faith that you have in God now. And we can carry that heavy load for you. And they were still faithful followers. They knew that they knew their place, and David knew what his place was. But they needed him to keep on leading the nation. They needed him to sit down somewhere and reflect on his words. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. David, your inspirational influence is just way too valuable for us to lose in battle. Let me bless you for a minute, church. For 27 years, you watched your shepherd overcome his giants in life. When they said you can't build it, he just said, watch out how God works it on out. When they said, you'll never fill up that building, he said, let's just let God work that out. When they said, we don't need a new foundation center, he just said, watch God work it out. And Pastor Wiley, they watched you make the impossible possible. And believe that God could work it out in their lives because of your faith. Hallelujah. You've been a good shepherd, Pastor. So just like David, Pastor Wiley doesn't mind getting his hands dirty. Even when he's in times of distress, he still steps up to do his duty. And whenever he faces desperate situations, he also provides divine inspiration. But just like the old preachers say, a sermon just ain't a real sermon until you put some blood on it. And we got to find Jesus in this text somewhere today. So I take a fast forward trip to Mark chapter 5. And there was a man named Jairus who ran to the shores of the Sea of Galilee. He came looking for a man named Jesus. He had never seen this man, but he had heard all about Jesus. He was desperate for help after the best doctors and the best medicines could not save his daughter. So he fell at the feet of Jesus, saying, "Please, Jesus, save my daughter." So Jesus made his way to see about the girl. But on the way to Jairus' house, there was a woman with an issue of blood. And she had to fight her way through the crowd to touch the hem of Jesus' garment. And Jesus looked at that woman and said, "By faith, your faith has made you whole." Jairus had to witness a miracle on his way to a miracle. And if Jesus could do it for her, then he could do it for Jairus too. But before they got to Jairus' house, they came out and told him, "Your daughter is already dead." But Jesus stepped right on in. He stepped in right on time and said, "Let's go on in anyhow." Jesus told Jairus, "Don't be afraid, just believe." You witnessed a miracle with a woman with an issue of blood. Now watch what I can do just for you. So he took that little girl by her hand, told her to rise up and walk. And that's just what she did. And I'm so glad today that Jesus will step in right on time. Just when you need him the most. If he did it for the woman with the issue of blood, don't you know that he'll do the same thing for you? If he did it for Jairus' daughter, he can do it just for you. Pastor Wiley, you've been a mighty good shepherd. You've been through so much. Had to bury your friends along the way, but you kept right on fighting. Yeah, Lord. You had to struggle through some surgery, but you kept right on fighting. You had to face some giants in your life. Didn't think you were going to make it, but you kept right on fighting. You got tired sometimes. Didn't always feel like preaching, y'all, but you just kept right on fighting. And that's why right now we're so glad that you've been a good shepherd. You had some faithful friends along the way. Rock of Ages were some faithful friends along the way. We were inspired by your battles. Thank you for never giving up. Thank you for keeping your head up. Thank you for helping us believe that we can make it. Thank you for walking by faith and not by sight. Rock of Ages, won't you praise God with me for the good shepherd in Pastor Marvin E. Wiley. We've got your back, doctor. We've got your back, doctor. That's why I praise him. He's worthy. Yes, he is. He's worthy. Yes, he is. He's worthy. Hallelujah. Yes, he is. Keep on telling them about a man named Jesus. Keep on